everyone. I'm Cheryl Koehn with Arthritis Consumer Experts, and we're one of the host organizations along with Arthritis Patient Advisory Board of Arthritis Research Canada and the Canadian Spondylitis Association, bringing to you live great experts and community members, sharing our information, our knowledge, our support, our excitement, our laughter. We hope to bring smiles to people as well while we're doing this work. But again, we're here at the annual scientific meeting of the Canadian Rheumatology Association and the Arthritis Health Professions Association, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to two very special people. You've actually already met Kelsey Chomistek. That's how I remember. Chomistek rhymes with majestic. A young rising star in the field of rheumatology research, and very involved with Cassie and Friends, who you're here representing, Jennifer Wilson. So we're very, very happy to have you, Jennifer, and Ms. Chomistek with us. I know that's how you're going to get named for life now. And we're super happy, not only that historically we've had a great partnership with Cassie and Friends, but also because we're in awe of the things that you guys have done in such a short period of time to work specifically with kids with arthritis. And of course, some of our viewers are going, kids get arthritis? And if you want to know a lot more about kids getting arthritis and how we can, as a global community of rheumatologists, fellow patients, practitioners, you can go to Cassie and Friends on the web and learn all about them and support them in the ways that you can. But for now, we're going to get a bit of an insider's view on Cassie and Friends and learn about some of the great things that you're doing, some of the great educational and support programs. In particular, I know you've got something cooking that's close to launch that you want to talk about, which is terrific. So really, I just want to welcome you, first Jennifer, and have you just say a few things about Cassie and Friends and where you're at. What year are you in now?
We are in our 13th year of operation, so starting with just one dad who's here in the room but not in the camera.
He's hidden behind the scenes and he promised to be good. So
one dad, but who quickly connected with some other families locally, and we started in BC. Through those families, working with their medical team, that's really the heart of what Cassie and Friends has been for 13 years, is the patients, the families, working together with their care teams to really have a open dialogue about what they see in clinic, what the families need, and then getting the right mix of programming that's really going to make an impact.
Yeah, you know, if there's some model that we look at in adult practice in rheumatology and as patients, we're so envious of that model, and I've told you we've had this conversation before, because often that doesn't happen for adults, right?
Yeah.
But when a kid, a vulnerable child, gets, really insidious, impactful disease, it's just sort of like dropping a neutron bomb in the middle of a family and seeing, crisis occur. So that model exists and that you're there to make sure that people are well supported, whether it's the child, the parent, the rheumatologist. It's fantastic. Can you tell us, from your perspective, what have you seen change, from the time that you arrived at Cassie and Friends over perhaps the last few years?
I think the level of connection that we're able to provide. So really when we first started, we were working with families, with young children. That was one of the sort of biggest thing that happened over 13 years of operation. A lot of those families that were at the very beginning of Cassie and Friends, those kids grew up. And so looking at the issues that teens face, what's important to teens, transition, which Kelsey will touch on later, because that's a big pillar of what we're doing now. And also just the dialogue. So one of our core values is conquering fear. And that's been a big part of what we do and how we educate and communicate with families, is that it is terrifying to get any rheumatic disease diagnosis with your children. But there are things that you can do, there's things you can learn, and there's so much expertise on the medical side, and then just talking to another parent, talking to another youth. And so bringing all that expertise together so that families can make educated decisions around medication, educated decisions around what's right for their family. and really just tackling some of the day-to-day stuff that doesn't belong in clinic, that belongs over tea or coffee or online, where you just need to talk to someone else who understands the journey you're on and the impact it has on you both physically and emotionally.
You know, the magical qualities of conversation are incredible, aren't they? Yeah, really amazing. You know, Kelsey, you've been through this as a patient, as a young child, and you know, you're now into an adult practice area, but obviously your heart remains in childhood arthritis, and your emerging relationship with Cassie and Friends. Tell us about that.
Sure. So I'm a juvenile idiopathic patient myself. I was diagnosed with polyarticular JA when I was 14, and it was quite severe. And when I was diagnosed, I actually didn't know anyone who had arthritis. I remember attending an event, and everyone was elderly, and I just felt so alone and so isolated, and that I was the only one who had this diagnosis, and I felt like I had to learn how to cope with this disease by myself. And I think what is so special about Cassie and Friends is that they are creating this community for patients and providing patients the opportunity to meet another patient at all stages of their transition, and the parents are able to get that support as well. And that's really why I wanted to become more involved with their organization, is because that's really at the heart of their organization, is making sure that patients are getting that connection from the start of their diagnosis all the way through.
All the way through. And as it relates to your work, to your field of study, you're taking a master's degree. Congratulations on your poster, by the way. It was
Thank
excellent. Tell us about what it is you hope to bring to Cassie and Friends as an organization, which obviously then is something that is delivery, service, kindness, care, love, treatment to the kids that Cassie and Friends serve. So tell us about that.
So my master's project is focused on self-management needs for teens who have arthritis, and a huge factor of that was the peer support component. So with Cassie and Friends, we are working together to expand the teen arthritis and autoinflammatory group, also known as TAG. And what TAG is
that's a great acronym, by the way.
It's majestic.
It's majestic, yeah.
TAG is a peer-to-peer support program for teens between the ages of 12 to 17 who have been diagnosed with childhood arthritis and other pediatric rheumatic diseases. And our main focus of TAG is to provide the opportunity for these teens to connect outside of the doctor's office, whether that be doing an arthritis-friendly sport activity, or we've had paint nights, and then also bringing in educational speakers to address some of the issues that these teens face on a day-to-day basis. And as of 2020, with Cassie and Friends, we are expanding TAG. It started in Calgary, and it is now expanding to Edmonton, Vancouver, London, Ontario, Toronto, as well as Halifax. So we're really excited to be able to bring that peer support component really across Canada to ensure that all of our teens are getting access to that support.
That's incredible. Okay, I have like little shivers going all over me. That's incredible. Seriously, I'm so happy that this connection took place for sure. I'm so happy to hear about the growth of Cassie and Friends, and you know, it's not easy to stay alive in a not-for-profit world. It takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, funding support, networking. Jennifer, you've done such a great job, I think, as a young leader in the community, and I really want to credit you, obviously credit the Ports, who were the brainchilds, who stood up alone and said, who else is out there, which takes unbelievable courage and strength. So a big shout out to them for founding Cassie and Friends. And I guess where I want to go with this is, when you think about your program offerings, I mean, how you have integrated the programming and how you've started at one age and thought about how you grow with the very first members that you got as an organization. I kind of see your programming evolving in that way. Can you talk a little bit about that? And that's a segue into what's coming up for Cassie and Friends.
So I guess it was about 2 years ago that we really started looking outside of BC, where we had our start, and as you said, what else is out there?
Yeah.
And what we found was there wasn't a lot else out there. That there was some great work being done by different organizations, but in terms of on the ground, like child focused, 100%, that's what we're looking at. We were coming up short. And so as we started meeting with different pediatric rheumatology teams and engaging amazing parent leaders, so really one thing I think that's helped us sustain is not trying to do everything from afar, but really being on the ground, being part of the medical team, understanding their patient needs, and then having really strong volunteers on the ground. And how that evolved our programming is we have a puppet show that is
my personal favorite.
So a live troupe of amazingly talented puppeteers that travels about 45 elementary schools a year in the Lower Mainland and area with some road trips. But everyone was interested in this program. They said there's no school support. You know, they might have a allied health member who goes in on their own time to speak at a school, but something really youth focused that's truly engaging. And
I think it applies in adult rheumatology, frankly.
Well, you know, it's funny that it's for the kids, but the teachers afterwards are like, oh, that's what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
So what we did was, instead of, you know, trying to duplicate a live puppet troupe, we, you know, endeavored on a project to work with a video production company, create a digital version, like it's a Juvenile Arthritis, the movie. It's 15 minutes, and now anyone, whether you live in Thunder Bay or Windsor or Haida Gwaii, you can get support in your school and have this, you know, video that explains and helps kids get understanding, and also just helps everyone understand that, you know, these kids can do anything. They might have a few extra challenges, they might need some accommodation, but with good dialogue and communication, they should be able to succeed at school like any other child.
Absolutely, and school can be a pretty tough environment if you don't look, feel, and act like everyone else. I imagine it can be quite difficult. Kelsey, you know, can you touch on or offer maybe a few pearls for parents and kids, likely at the very age, which is a really tough age at 14. I mean, you're just trying to figure out what the heck's happening to your body, let alone learn how to deal with this really crazy disease process in your parents and a new doctor and all of that. Can you tell us, tell our audience, just to offer a few tips, if you could?
Sure. So I was diagnosed at 14, and it was difficult because it's a time of your life when you really want to fit in with your peers. You don't want to do anything that makes you stand apart. So it was difficult in that side of things, as well as learning how to manage this diagnosis and some of the side effects that come with it. But that's actually inspired Cassie and Friends to create a committee to develop targeted resources for parents and teens to navigate the school system better. So some examples of things that you can do: we've developed a school checklist of different resources that are available, as well as a puppet show, and these are all available online at the Cassie and Friends website. So I think really just tuning into the resources that are available, as well as reaching out to your rheumatology clinic for support. They're able to write you a school letter, and we have a template for that on the website as well. And there's many accommodations available at school that you can use if you look for them and apply for them. And I just really encourage patients to use that moving forward.
Yeah, this is like a gold mine of resources, and just kind of helping parents and their kids kind of get over the hump. Like, how do I take my first steps out there in the real world with this now new challenge? I like to think of challenges as opportunities too, because I think of the rich community you have built and continue to build. And I know I've met so many of the parents who've been involved. I've come to some of your family days, and it's just amazing to see the explosion of the community, in my view anyway. Jennifer, I guess when we look to the future, you talked about how you kind of looked outside of our borders of British Columbia and, you know, peered across the Rockies and even further, and saw there to be gaps. And you've reached out and built new partnerships now. What's next for Cassie and Friends?
So this year we actually have our Family Day conferences happening in BC, which will take place in Surrey, Calgary, at Alberta Children's Hospital, and Toronto at the Hilton Garden in Vaughan, Ontario, so pulling from several centers.
And folks can get the dates of those and register for them
on
online.
Our website,
okay, perfect.
And these are days of education, connection, and fun.
Hey people, I've been to them, and the fun part, like underline, they're
so
really terrific. Yeah.
And then building on that, so again, Cassie and Friends is both local, super local, and then national, bringing this community together. So
Yeah.
that connection can't just happen one day a year. And so we're going to launch this year an online support network that we're very excited about. The first phase of it will be for parents. But we see this as a critical part of their care. So in clinic, there's your medication, your exercises, and then if you want to talk to another parent or
Yeah.
learn from others, you can access this online support network. And we hope it really is going to bring Cassie and Friends to life in terms of not just connection with others, but resources, talks,
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
interesting facts about research, how to get involved in research. When we issue advocacy, being able to connect with that. So we really see it multi-layered, and then really hope to, working with some of the doctors who are doing amazing work in health technologies like
Yeah.
Jennifer Stinson's
Yeah.
team, iPeer-to-peer, integrating those research pieces that otherwise don't have a home into the app as well with
Yeah.
youth leaders, and then integrating youth into the program.
Wow,
So
so
we're really excited
just a
about
titch ambitious. I love that. Think big, go big. And I would imagine you're looking to satisfy the needs of the children as well. So, but I like this layered approach, smart operationally, I think. And when it comes to the kids, I imagine there's going to be ways to make sure that there's protection online for them, because it can be very brutal out there.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the sites, even in the adult world, we're surprised sometimes at what you see in closed groups, moderated groups. So I know you guys will do a great job at that. So Kelsey, I just am so happy. I know we've interviewed you about your work, and to see now the life form that's been created between yourself, your work, Cassie and Friends. I think I kind of feel like a bit of a Yentl life. I've brought people together. And I just want to congratulate you, Jennifer, and the whole team at Cassie and Friends for just amazing work, amazing contribution to community, and I mean the entire rheumatology community. You're such a great addition to the collective voice that we have. And I think it's incumbent upon the adult rheumatology community, including arthritis consumer experts and our consumer organization partners, to help amplify your voice as well. And I think therein lies the magic sauce to building better policy, getting more services in our publicly funded healthcare system. I think those are all the great things that we can do together, even though we don't hold your expertise. We're going to go to our audience and see if we have any questions.
Okay, from a patient standpoint, what should people transitioning from juvenile arthritis care to adult rheumatological care expect? And do you have any resources or tools to help people going through this phase?
Okay, so that's a great question. I transitioned to the adult healthcare system when I was 17, so I was a bit younger, and it is a difficult process in regards to understanding how the adult healthcare system works, realizing that not all of your healthcare providers are going to be at a centralized location. You may have to go to different centers. It might take a little bit more time to get referred. However, there is some excellent resources that are being developed for transition. One that's coming to mind in Alberta is the Alberta Health Services transition website. We've worked with an interdisciplinary team to develop these resources, and there's resources available for patients, healthcare providers, and parents that can help you navigate the transition process. And this expands outside of the healthcare system to things like what we talked about today with your education, or if you're entering the workforce. So I'd really recommend everyone looking into that resource. And I know there's similar resources available in BC and some of the other provinces as well.
Are those, let me ask a follow-up question to their question, these resources that you're referring to, I mean, some of them are online and will be applicable across the country because they're not specific to the actual service delivery, but some of them will be very specific to the Calgary region, let's say, or to the province of Alberta. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
There was actually a meeting yesterday with a team of healthcare professionals across Canada, to ensure that these transition resources are being widely distributed, and that is up and coming and really exciting. And I think something that Cassie Friends is providing as well is when you're transitioning from the peer support side of it, they also have the Youth Leader Network, which is a group of young adults who have been living with rheumatic diseases and who are now entering their young adult phase. And I think getting in touch with them so they can discuss some of the challenges or experiences that other young adults have faced is extremely important to have that peer support aspect as well.
I'm really just breaking down the invisible component of
For
arthritis.
sure,
That
yeah.
you are not alone, that there are young adults all over Canada who are in a similar period of life, 20, entering university, maybe traveling to university and having to coordinate care, figuring out medication, backpacking through Asia and, bringing your medications with you and figuring out how to do that. I mean, that is all, that is education and a peer support network, that it's just bringing those issues out in the open, anticipating it before they're off the cliff of pediatric care, and beginning those conversations early.
It's like super practical life hacks for patients transitioning. I mean, that's what you're talking about, right? Any other questions, Anita?
A follow-up question. How long does that whole transition process took you?
So it depends on the site. Some centers are starting patients transition earlier and having those conversations around the age of 13 or 14. At the Alberta Children's Hospital, when I transitioned, the usual age was 18, but it just depends on your site, and then some sites as well on the adult side of things. Certain cities do have what's called like a young adult transition clinic that actually prepares you for transition from both the pediatric to adult side. So it just depends what site you're at.
It can be also parent-led too, from a very early age. So getting the child comfortable with asking questions on their own. As you're, into 13, 14, is there a little portion of that meeting or the appointment that they can do, and then coming back in and having them repeat what happened in there so you can check and balance.
Boy, I think that's super practical advice for parents. Practice makes perfect. And if you want the experience not to be as foreign, start practicing modeling the experience early on. I think that's really valuable advice, Jennifer.
Encouraging those conversations, encouraging patients to start taking responsibility for their own medications or scheduling their own appointments are all things you can do as you start entering those teenage years.
Practice makes perfect. Great. Is that it, Anita, for questions? Okay. Folks, these people are around. They're not going anywhere. Well, I will let you go from here, but because I know you want to go and have more meetings and go eat dinner and whatnot. But you can continue to roll in your questions. We'll make sure that they're answered. Again, the website, cassieandfriends.ca. Please go there. There's a wealth of information there and exciting opportunities to get involved as a volunteer, as a donor, as a friend, as a supporter, as a colleague. So tons of opportunities means smiles, fun, and most importantly, really giving a child with arthritis like a platinum life. I think that's what it's all about. So thanks so much for joining us. I think we have more interviews coming up. Come back soon and keep your questions coming, and we'll make sure they get answered. Thank you both very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really delightful having you here.